Hello everyone, welcome to EduTap and welcome to the success story session. In front of us today with us we have Miss Bhavana who has cleared the RBI Grade B in her first attempt. And so this was her first attempt as well as she was working also. So how she managed, she was able to manage the working part as well as the preparation part. Let's understand from her only that how she juggled in between the two things and she was able to clear the RBI Grade B in her first attempt. First of all, heartiest congratulations to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
So can you tell a little about your educational background?
Actually, basically, I'm from Shimoga, Karnataka. So I've done my schooling from there itself. And after plus two, I've done my graduation in Bachelor of Science in Botany, Microbiology, and Biochemistry, which has nothing to do with finance in University of Mysore, Yurajas College. So after my graduation, I'm graduating in 2020. So after my graduation, I wanted to pursue UPSC exam and prepare for it. So I went for 1 year UPSC coaching. Then after dwelling into other exams that we have arena, which have good career prospects. So that's when RBI was in the radar. So RRB was an intermediate thing that I thought would justify my interest in RBI. So I thought getting into a bank will give a good realistic approach from my side in the interview, especially in the RBI. So my aspiration to become a central banker will be justified in a real manner. So that's why I gave the RRB exam, and presently I'm working in RRB and gave the exam this year.
So you just finished like your graduation in 2020, we can say. So quite young, I can say. And then you started the preparation for a little time for UPSC, but after that you shifted your focus for the RBI Grade B. And in the first attempt, we can see that with the dedication you have, you were able to clear the RBI Grade B. So when you started like thinking about the RBI Grade B, after that you gave the RRB to justify the interest, we can say. So how are you able to manage the preparation when you were working with the RRB?
Actually, about the RBI Grade B exam itself, I have came to know pretty late actually, because the preconceived notions that we have regarding RBI. Like during my college days, also what I used to think is only the people who have done MA in economics and PhD people. So they are the ones who work in RBI or the veteran bankers, from the big
Mm.
banks that we hear. So I never even have an idea that there's a post for generalist also in the RBI. So it was late into the public sector examinations that I dwelled into. I got to know that RBI recruits generalist also. So when I got to know that, and the RBI in the RBI website especially, they explains the job at RBI so well that you're very much interested to pursue your career over there. So it's like have a corporate environment in a government sector that's very rare to find. So that thing attracted a much. So I got to know about it pretty later, because by then I was about to give RRB exam just to see how the exam pattern goes of the banking exams also. So when I cleared the RRB exam, I was actually in dilemma to whether join RRB or not, to continue preparation for UPSC or a serious one for RBI. But I thought that okay, I will study for the phase 1 and phase 2, which was confident. But interview was one thing that I was quite skeptical about. So I thought that RRB is one shot that I can have to get a good impression in the interview especially. So I'll just this will give like a model question paper for me for the interview if I'm a working candidate. So being a non-finance background, so it was very much necessary for me to show that interest in RBI. So when I'm in RRB, so that was quite useful for me, and everything went as I planned. So here I am in my first attempt.
That is really nice to hear also that like quite intelligent we can say that you cleared your like quite young, at quite young you were able to clear the RBI Grade B because you were quite focused. You wanted you know that you knew that what you wanted and you pursued that, and that is really nice to hear also. So now coming to the working aspirant part, how were you able to manage the time for the working also, for the preparation also?
Yeah, time is the scarce that we feel, and the all the lost time we get, we remember all the time that we have wasted now when we are working actually. So being a working candidate is very important, that even though we want to do hard work, we don't have time to do so. So smart work is the only approach that we are left with. So for everything, like basics is something that we have to do hard work to get our basics set right. So I was pretty fortunate that I did 1 year UPSC preparation, from which my basics were quite set aside. Like I was not in a position where I have to start everything from the scratch. at least if not everything, I knew something about everything. So that was the condition that we get into when we go to UPSC coaching. So after that, I just wanted to for the specifically for RBI grade B, for with the intention to read only for this exam. So by the time I started for that, I was already in the job. So we get only limited time. So that's when EduTap came into picture. Initially the awareness of this exam also I initially got from EduTap itself. So like the testimonials that we get from the toppers, like there are many people, and this year also we have seen. So that is very much justified by itself that the content and the material will suffice for the exam. So that belief, actually, I purchased the course, and I was very sure that with the limited amount of time that I have with the job, I'll not be able to comprehend the notes or prepare my own notes and all. So I knew that I have to just stick on to the materials that provided by the institute, and which was more confident about because of the previous year toppers that I have heard about, like they justified it. That
Yes.
was sufficient, they say. So that is the belief that I had in EduTap, actually. So I was pretty confident that I'll just stick to this and I'll not wander around saying anything else. So I started with EduTap itself. So initially I started to study the notes and also watch videos. But since in the inception of the job, we are yet to adjust there. So it's not quite able to pull off through the syllabus also. So actually this year was a trial run for RBI Grade B for myself. So I was thinking to have the serious attempt next one, but this one became the serious one. Actually this year I initially aimed at RBI assistant, actually. So so that at least I could get into the organization, then I can give RBI Grade B. So initially I was preparing for that RBI assistant, but things didn't well go there. I could not clear prelims itself. So then, in the hopes of clearing RBI assistant pre, I was studying for RBI assistant mains, which is something equated to RBI grade B prelims, from the aspect of reasoning and point that we see. So in that lines, I was studying. G is something that we have more importance in grade B. So my preparation was slightly shifted over there. So when the results came, I was quite sure that RBI grade B is the one thing that I have in mind, but I was not hoping that I'll just clear in the first attempt itself. But things went well with the content that I had, which came in handy in the limited time that I had. So along with the job, I managed to study in the evening hours and the holidays without taking any holidays. I just managed to study in the limited time that I had. So we can manage if we have the content ready at the hand. So it's hard to start from the scratch when you're working, but if everything is ready given to you, which is sufficient for the exam, it's possible, actually.
So you focused only on the content that was provided by EduTap, and that sufficed your preparation. You didn't have to go to different places to search for the content, and that's how you managed with the limited time. You were able to manage the preparation. That is really nice to hear for us also, because we also put a lot of effort. So when a topper says that yes, we helped them, it feels really great, I can say. So now I think we can move to the strategy part, like starting from phase one. So what was your strategy for GA? Like the content was given, but there is like much revision that has to be done. So what was your strategy for that part?
Actually, GA is something that have kind of different approach towards GA. So we see that there are many factual questions asked, but I never study in the lines of remembering the facts. I just always study in the lines of understanding the concepts. So I always believe that when you are clear in the concepts, the facts will follow. So that was my kind of approach. Actually, I never by hearted any facts, the numbers or anything. I just used to get a vague idea, like in and around, around the numbers, how are there. So that's my kind of approach that I did. So since I was left with very less time, and during the pre I had my training at my bank also, so I didn't get enough time to revise also. So what I did was I do not follow newspaper, actually. So I follow the institute, how they give the concoction of the newspaper. So that's what I see. So what I did was initially I followed the pocket PDFs that we get, concised ones for the GA. So I used to follow that. For the revision, what I did was I followed EduTap's magazine, only the index. So as to just check, have I missed any news? Like even what I believe is that GA is something everyone are at the same level. So even I may remember one minute detail, but the other person will remember the other. So it's not something everyone knows everything.
Hmm.
So that kind of a thought that I had is GA is like everyone will be at the same level, so there is nothing to worry about it. So make sure that I know the basics very well, that what everyone knows, I should know that. So that was my kind of approach towards GA. So I just hovered through RBI website, so which everyone does. So I wanted to, like, if not something extra, I should not lag behind, which everyone knows. So that is what I did. So for GA, I referred EduTap's magazine also and other institute magazines, just to hover on if I have missed any of the news. There are in and around news. So for GA was quite that much itself that I did. I didn't do anything in specific. I used to follow news. I used to follow Beyond News, especially just to understand the concept, like what's going on around. So that's it. What I did.
Okay. And how many times of revision do you think is necessary?
Yeah, the revision is quite important actually, because we'll be at a stage when we study something in an exam. If you see the question, we'll be at a stage. We know that we have studied that, but we don't know what is the answer. So if we don't revise, that is the condition that we will be in. So it's not the number of times, every person has a different perceiving level. So someone requires two rounds of revision. Someone just, the content sticks in their head in the first time itself. So it depends on the person. But still, what I believe is these minute details or more intricate features are not something you should go on giving importance, but you should be strong enough that the basics are very good, and what everyone knows, that you should be thorough enough, that thing you should revise for everything around the basics. So that's my mantra regarding GA actually.
That is a really nice mantra. And now coming to how many months of GA did you study?
Actually, for GA, I focused only of 6 months, like what the current affairs, like for other things that are happening. But other than that, I think that we should not focus on the number of months actually, because some questions are asked. Some topic will come in the news, and the related basics will be asked,
Hmm.
or the related some 2 years ago something would have happened. They will ask by giving a link to that. Even the government schemes part, especially.
Yeah.
So in that actually EduTap, I used to watch the government schemes part, which ma'am does of 10-15 minutes videos. So I really liked her approach towards the schemes actually, because she used to not only teach the currently announced schemes. She
Hmm.
used to touch all those which came in the news. Either
Hmm.
it is 2 years old or 3 years old.
Yeah.
So that kind of approach is very much important, because the examiner who is setting paper is also thinking what is in news, what is happening
Hmm.
around. So they are not having in the mind, I should ask in between the 6 months of time or 1 year of time. So we should have that clarity,
Okay.
how the examiner has the
Hmm.
purview while they are setting the paper.
Okay. So Diksha ma'am used to teach the schemes that were in news, and you focused on that also, that whatever is in news currently, you should be focused on that, you should be doing that, and whatever has been in news in the past 6 months from the examination. So that is important. Okay. So now coming to the quant reasoning and English part, how did you manage those?
Yeah, quant and reasoning, pretty honestly, I found it actually hard this time in the free. So because it was quite different from the banking quant and reasoning
Hmm.
this year, what I noticed. So I actually managed to clear the sectional cutoff with a thin margin over there. So I was pretty lucky in that section actually. But quant and reasoning something that we should just practice. The I didn't specifically follow any of the sources for quant and reasoning, because I have been following, I have been preparing for banking
Hmm.
exams. So that basics was okay. So I just, gave some mocks of quant and reasoning. That's it. And for the English part, I didn't specifically study for any exams actually for English.
Hmm.
So I'm quite okay with English. So if someone wants to study for the grammar part of the English, so I would suggest Renan Martin book is there for the grammar section. So that pretty good gives a good view into the grammar section.
Okay, that is very nice. And now I think we can move to the phase two of the examination, that is starting with finance and management. How did you manage that? Coming from the science background, how were you able to manage that?
Yeah, actually, finance and management is, everyone says that start with finance management for the phase two. So management was something completely new. But finance, I had a basic idea by the economy that I have studied in UPSC, like, just basics, nothing more, nothing less. So for finance and management also, I just referred EduTap actually, especially for phase two. I should mention this because since we were left only with 18 days after the results came for the phase two, I spent 1 day for English descriptive part just to see how the pattern is there, and 2 days for planning what to study actually. because I was left with only 15 days and I haven't even touched management section yet. So what I did was I calculated each and everything, from the video courses that EduTap offers, the summary notes, the concept notes. I calculated everything and saw that nothing was feasible to complete in those 15 days, because I had to, glance through everything, because I didn't expect to clear prelims this year. So after that, what I did was, the reason that I joined to EduTap was the mind maps, which were very attractive to me for the revision quotient actually. So that was the most feasible thing that I found. Mind maps is something that will be my game changer, because at the surface level, I'll just glance through everything. So I'll not leave out any topic, but I'll just study everything at the superficial level. So I, studied the mind maps for the finance actually. Since I was okay with the basics, I just go through the mind maps for the mains part. And for the management, actually, I initially started to go through mind maps, but everything went over the head. So that's when I asked my brother to, understand, explain the concepts of management. He's having public administration optional. So he was quite helpful in explaining those, like how these theories go into, how are these dealt with. So after getting, listening all of that, then I went to mind maps again. Then some things went into the head. So in mains also, I just stick to the notes.
Yes.
So I, after, I just glanced to the mind maps for my mains part, because of the only 15 days gap that we had. So finance and management completely I did from that. And for the current affairs, I followed yours, RBI finance in news, which was very much helpful actually. So for government schemes, those are the things which were not, at the superficial level, we can't see. It's just not something we can understand in one line. We need in-depth knowledge to answer the questions that are in news, like any of the schemes or any of the RBI's announcements or notifications. So that also I did from the 10 or 15 minutes videos that you do, for the finance and the schemes and the PIB news. So these were the things that I followed for the current affairs. I didn't refer any other stuff for current affairs also, just I followed the videos, that's it. So the finance and management was well and sufficient. I could answer most of the questions from what I've studied over there.
Okay. And as you said, like, can you tell me the total preparation months? Like, how many months you have put for the preparation for starting from the phase one till the end?
Yeah, actually, my initial preparation started back in February actually, but due to the job, I got lagged a bit. Then after the exam process itself, I have just prepared with the process.
Okay.
I didn't have 1 year or 2 years of preparation, but I have prepared along with the job, with the the gap that we get in the exam time itself. So that is possible by the content that I was very specific, which has helped me very much in the exam.
So we can say that in 3-4 months you were able to cover the phase one, phase two, and less than 3-4 months we can say. Okay, so yeah, because I was getting like confused where the 15 days came now. So I was like, yeah, she was able to clear like the concepts very fast. So that is really nice, and you were able to cover that up in such a fast manner. That is also nice to hear. So now, like coming to the descriptive part, did you have time to prepare like to the typing for the typing and all?
No, I didn't actually, I didn't give any mock for phase two because of the lack of time. So I knew that, typing speed, everyone are at the same level. No one is a typist over there. So everyone has the basic typing speed. So I just wanted to reach the word limit plus or minus 50 words. So I just wanted to see that if one question I'm attending to the full word limit and the other I'm just attending 100, 200 words, that will not suffice. So having, average word limit in both questions will do the justice. So that was my approach. So word limit is the first impression that we give to the examiners, like the length of the answer that they see. So it kind of gives that they have the content to write this much. So even if we write very short, that will kind of give a negative impression when they're evaluating. So I
Yes.
was very keen about the word limit, how much I should give for the question, and the order of attending the questions. So which I know thoroughly, and the content or the facts that I know, that I used to attend first, to make the impression first.
Huh.
So we can manage with the second one if we are averagely writing that. So that thing we have to notice actually in the examinations, with the perspective of the examiner actually. So for descriptive, I didn't give any mocks or even practice typing also. It was in the actual exam that I typed. So actually the hands went numb in the second session actually for the prolonged typing that we have.
Okay. So that is quite a risky approach, I can say that because you had
Yes,
less
I do
time.
not suggest actually. I don't suggest that to anyone because you should know how much practice and the word limit that you are reaching, and the things have gone well for me, but
Yeah.
it won't be for everyone. So they should practice beforehand.
Yeah, but you had such a less time. Like you started the preparation for phase two after that only. So in that such a limited time, you were able to be smart enough to know that what you have to pursue, what you have to focus on, as well as how you can manage everything in the examination. That with the limited knowledge also you can gain better if you are very like calm. Like we can see that how calm person you are, that you are able to manage, you were able to strategize that how I want to follow the exam, how I want to do the examination. So that is also a very good thing that the aspirants can learn from you, is that how to manage even if you have the less time but you want to clear the exam. So even with the less time you can manage if you have the smart work going on. So that is really
Yeah,
great.
actually, one thing actually I did a mistake after prelims is until the result came, since I was quite sure that I'll not clear the prelims, I was thinking to take a week's break and then start afresh. So when the results came, like I was quite shocked to see that I passed, and I was more regretful because I lost a week and only 15 days were lying ahead. So
Mm,
one thing that I would say to the future aspirants is, even though you have the least chance to clear a phase, either it may be any phase of the exam, until the result comes, you should just keep studying, thinking that some miracle will happen and you will clear that phase. So you can take that break after the result comes.
mm.
So that thing is most regrettable one, because when you have only 15 days left, those 7 days will feel like a lot of time that we have wasted.
Yes,
So I
that's
would
true.
like to say that after the exam gets over, think that some miracle will happen and you'll clear, and just keep studying till the result comes. Then you can take the break.
Yes. So that is also a good thing to learn, that you have to come like until the result comes, you do not know that what will happen, how the cutoff will go high or low. So you should prepare at least and you should not waste your time. So now I think we can move to the ESI part. Now, how did you manage the ESI part?
ESI actually, ESI is pretty covered in the UPSC, like the contents, or
Yeah.
the overview of the everything that we have. So ESI also, I just refer to the mind maps. It's quite unbelievable that only mind maps did the thing for me, but that's the reality. Because of the limited time, I could only refer and revise that, because I had this component of revision also.
Hmm.
So summary notes, I can glance over, but I will not be left with the time to revise. So
Hmm.
I went with the mind maps, but keeping in mind the previous year questions. So
Hmm.
that were very much important. Beforehand, I dwell into any topic, I used to refer to the previous year question and then see the mind maps, so that I could see the depth of the content that it contains and the questions that were asked. And I could see that if I need some more, like, I have to study some more subtypes or any of the in-depth content. So then I would just dwell into the concept notes or summary sheets and go through it. So
Okay.
that's how I went through it. So ESI also, I was quite okay with the basics. I can just frame the answers. For descriptive, I
Hmm.
was quite comfortable. For the facts and figures, I just refer to like the current affairs videos and all that we have. Government schemes. So those were supplemented by EduTap itself.
Okay. So we can say that you might not have the typing practice, but you already had the writing practice, because in UPSC you have that descriptive component there. So students
Yeah.
the aspirants need to do a lot of practice in the writing part, because we know the facts, we know the stuff, but usually when we come to write, we do not know that how to start, how to finish. So that kind of thing only comes with practice. So can you tell us about the framework of the writing of descriptive answer?
Yeah, actually, descriptive, we'll be have the content, but the way we present is very much important in the descriptive, actually. So there is no one ideal way to present, like either in the paragraphs or in
Hmm.
the bulletins. It
Hmm.
should be a combination, actually, how the question demands. So if the question is directly asking you to mention some 5 points or 10 points, you just flow with the bulletins. So if it's asking, just of the opinionated questions, you can't just write the bulletin points, because that's not how you present when they're asking to analyze or your opinion. So then you should, comprehend with, you should fill in the paragraphs. Then you can, while you're giving the different dimensions, you can write the bulletins. So the way how we present the answer is very much important, because it should be very much, attractive to the examiner. Like they should feel like, here I have to give half a mark, here I have to give 1 mark. So I have been very keen to, answer with the mindset of the examiner, because for us it's our one paper, but they're evaluating hundreds of them. So to stand out in all those is something that we can make a difference and fetch those extra marks to, clear the exams.
Okay. So now I think we can move to the English descriptive. So what, like, did you practice for that, or did you just leave that because you had very less time?
No, actually, even though if I had the time also, I would not be practicing English actually, because I'm quite comfortable in it. So I just saw 1 or 2 videos that, in the EduTap, the English sir did, how to answer these, like for the Prezi and the comprehension, word limit. So I just planned in one day, like in which order I'm attending the questions, those three, and how will, which first one I'll attend, and what is the word limit that I'll be reaching. So I kept the essay at the last, so that all the time that I have will, invest in writing a larger essay. So that was a quite easy one. It was not so hard for the English descriptive, but it's equally important actually, because it also costs 100 marks. Many people ignore when, we all are doing ESIFM, and we just ignore the English, which has equal weightage and gives you equal amount of marks. So we should focus on English also, to write some, spellings and grammatical errors are something that we should be very aware of while writing the English paper, because it's not the test of the how well we write the answer. It's the test of the language. So that's one thing we should keep in mind while attending the interview. It's not the ESI question that we are writing. We are writing in English. So putting some good English words, using some jargons, or having a good, well-written, grammarly accurate answer is something that will make the difference in English.
That's true. So you simply watched Narveer sir's video and you were able to understand that, okay, this will be the pattern and this is how I should write. And in one day you strategize and you were comfortable with it. But many students, they should really practice a lot regarding English, because as ma'am has also said, that grammar is something, the language is something, and the spellings are something that you cannot do mistaken in an English exam. So you should be very like thorough with the spellings. You should be very thorough with the grammar when you are writing in the English exam. So now I think we can move to the interview part. And did you give any mock interview?
Yeah, I gave 2 mock interviews. One was from EduTap and the other was from other institute.
Okay.
So I just gave 2, and even initially I was planning to, not give the mock interviews, because, for the interview I started my preparation after the mains itself. I didn't want to repeat the mistake that I did after the pre. So I just had this thought that if the mock interviews didn't go well, and, that thing just sits in my head, like I have not read anything, or my revision is not sufficient. So that negative thing might, revolve my head and spoil my 4-5 days left for revision. So but yet I thought that just I'll not let the things to get into my head, and I'll give the mock interview. And mock interview is very much useful actually, because I was many of the questions repeated for me in the actual interview.
Okay.
Because I pretty much worked on the interview for my biodata especially. So interview was my, I thought that this is something that I can devise how I want. So what I did was, I gave only minimum time for the revision, or current affairs or the newspaper. I just only followed your finance in news, because that is something that we can get in. That is the only current affairs that we should be aware of when we are giving the RBI interview. So if anything that they ask other than the finance news, it can be okay if we don't answer those current affairs. So I just following that, and I devoted all my time to devise my biodata, and throw in all the key points that I want and fetch questions from there, because that is something we are giving them the template to ask questions. So we have to give those key points for them to ask the questions to us. So, if we don't have anything in the biodata, they'll just, ask something around the economy, and it will just, it is not possible to answer everything when we give them a blank canvas to ask questions.
True. That is so true. So how was your final interview? Like, how were the panel members? How many panel members were there?
Yeah, there were 6 panel members. 2 were female and other were male. So my interview was in Chennai. I didn't have much time for interview also. I had in August itself the interview. So for interview, I just devised my biodata, and I was quite sure that my questions will be regarding, my HR questions will be mostly asked, and the job, for the main component, for the interview component, which I took this RRB job. So that is something I was quite sure that the questions will come around it. So I only prepared for the interview for my HR questions for the RRB in-depth and the RBI in-depth. So I just referred to RBI website now and then, and used to listen to the speeches. And for the RRB, I wanted to be point on to every questions what they ask, because you should be answering everything to the point about yourself and the organization you're working in and the organization you're aspiring to get into. So these are 3 things you should majorly focus upon. So you can't, and one thing everyone should get in their head: if you are in an organization working, so you should never say negative things about it. So even though you are living it, you should be very positive when you answer about even the flaws of your organization which you are working in. So since I was working in RRB, I was having many questions at hand, which got repeated in the actual interview, like why RRBs were set up, if you are launching the RRB IPO, what are the pros and cons? These are kind of questions which were most anticipated. They asked the same questions itself. So when the interview started, Chairman sir introduces in the interview. So we don't have to introduce ourselves. So while introducing, actually, he exclaimed about the academic achievements, like, you have scored so much in your graduation. So that's the moment I understood that the HR questions will be my deviation from my graduation. So I'm just going to get grilled over that. So I was quite sure when he exclaimed about the graduation's marks. So then he asked for a 3 minutes monologue on NBFC. Just he clearly upfront told that you're good at studies. I want to know your conceptual understanding about, what you has conceptually, how you have understood RBI and other things. So he asked me to give a 3 minutes monologue on NBFC and the regulation that we are getting into. So after that, the co-curricular activities component that we have in the biodata is very much important, because the questions will be compulsorily asked from that. So if you are done something in your school days, it's very much important we mention those. So I have mentioned about the badminton stint that I have at, and the folk dance that I used to perform in the school. So I got questions from there also. They were very keen to know, like, there are something unique things. So they're very interested to know what is this and how that happens. And even the hobbies also. Hobbies component, I wrote my hobby as curating terrariums. So I knew that obviously they would not be knowing what is that. So that will be the first question, like, what is this? So then, the regular hobbies are there, many things. So having something unique and giving them a view that you are a versatile person, you are academically good, you are doing co-curricular activities also, you were, other stream, and now you're aiming for this, you're working in a bank. So I just wanted to give this idea that I'm very flexible and versatile, and I want to adapt and learn new things as much as possible. So this kind of impression that I wanted to create, and it happened actually in the biodata. So the content that I had. So the biodata just did the work for me. The questions were, like, I had prepared for the answers. They asked the same questions, and some things went over the head, like, the bouncers. Single sir is there. He asked about the HR questions, like the life decisions that we take. He's the one that questions those. So he started with asking, okay, you have, Bhavna, right? Microbiology will be not used in RBI. So I told, yes, sir, I knew that. So he just asked, like, you have scored so well in your graduation, you could have pursued masters in, for the you are just wasting your talent that you have in your forte of graduation. So I knew that this question will be for me for sure, because if we don't have that much of good academia in the graduation that we do, we can justify that since I was not interested, sir, I just deviated and got into the public sector. But when you're good at it, it's very hard to justify why you left when you are so good at it. So that thing I justified, by saying that, sir, I'm a 2020 graduate, and it was a COVID year, and to do a master's, and that too in life science laboratory, wet lab experience is something very much important. And due to COVID, I'm going to miss that. I don't want to spoil my research career if I want to join. So that's why I ditched the idea of the MSc. So it's quite convinced with my answer, like why it was a real one, a genuine one. Actually, the real reason why I didn't want to join MSc back then. So he thought they were quite convinced. They nodded their head and okay. But then he gave the bouncer. okay, fine, you took a good decision by not doing MSc, because it would have been no use. If you had done it online, it would have been like correspondence. If you are so keen to join RBI, then you would have done a master's in economics from IGNO then. So he just asked me this. So that was a complete bouncer for me. So I just told him that, sir, since I lack the theoretical, exposure for the RBI job, so at least to get the practical exposure, that's the reason I have joined RRB. At the grassroots level, I want to understand banking to become a central banker, and they were quite convinced with those answers. So I think that these kind of HR questions, like whatever, you might have gap years, or you might have deviated from your graduation or your subject. It's not, nothing is wrong, but you should justify everything in a realistic way. So that's something you should be very much prepared for the interview. So other things will follow, like whatever the current affairs or the basic understandings. So it's okay if we don't answer some questions, it will not do a harm, because if they're asking the questions on RRB, or the other banks, public sector banks, I can take an advantage to, I can say that I don't know about some other public sector bank. If they ask a question about RRB, I cannot bear to not answer that. So these kind of importance, like which questions you can lose not to answer, which you should answer, is something that we have clarity, and focus on those areas for the interview. And then you will have the steering of the interview in your hand, and it will go in your way. Otherwise, it will feel like a grilling session for 20 minutes.
That is so true, and that is so nice to hear from you that you are able to understand that what is the pattern, how to take that pattern in your advantage, and you are able to pull everything through. And in such a short time, we can say in 3 months, we can say you were able to complete everything, and you were able to become the RBI Grade B officer, and that is really nice to hear. But you had the strategy, you had the smart work going on, we can say, and this is really nice to hear that yes, with your brain, with your efficiency, we can say you can clear the RBI grade B in the first attempt, like ma'am has done, and that is really nice to hear. So thank you very much, ma'am. But before ending this session, any message to the aspirants out there?
Yeah, the only message that I would do give is, if you have time, do the hard work. But once the exam starts, switch to the smart work, because that will be the savior. And just plan accordingly. And to your profile, for the interview, you can just plan it completely. For the prelims and mains, give as many mocks as you can. On the pre-hand itself, you can know where you stand, and which are the arenas you want to work into. So one thing that I would suggest is, the section, especially for the interview, just inculcate some hobbies or curricular activities, just to fill in those columns, and give an impression of one person who is versatile. And because RBI is a knowledge organization, as they say, so you should seem as a person who is ready to acquire new knowledge and very keen to learn new things. So that kind of thing, when you have time, you can start those things from now. If you don't have a hobby, just start now. You can do those pre-hand along with the preparation, so that you can take those into your hand in the interviews section which we have. Other than that, pre and means, we have all the content at our hand, so just do the work and revise as much as you can.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming. And it was such a nice interview, such a new kind of interview, because many new things that we have learned and the aspirants must have learned. And thank you so much, ma'am, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.